Let's take a look at how PHP scripts make decisions based on conditions and comparisons. The structure of a conditional statement is based on human language. You wrap the condition to be tested in a pair of parentheses and precede it with the keyword if. If the condition evaluates to true, the code between the curly braces is executed. If it evaluates to false, the whole block of code is ignored. If you want something else to happen when the condition fails, add the keyword else after the closing curly brace and wrap the alternative code in another pair of curly braces. So if the condition is true, the first block of code is executed, and if the condition is false, the second block is executed instead. But you're not limited to just two options. You can chain conditions like this using else if, which is normally written as one word. It still works if you add a space between else and if, but else if as a single keyword is more usual. When you chain conditions like this, only the first one that evaluates to true is executed. So if the first condition is false, but the second one is true, the code inside the second pair of curly braces is executed. But if both are true, only the first block is executed. Much of the time, conditions involve comparing two non-Boolean values using one of these comparison operators. One of the most important points to note is that PHP uses two equal signs to test whether both values are equal. A common mistake is to use just one, which always evaluates to true. Why, you may ask? Well, it's because a single equal sign assigns a value. It doesn't compare two values, and if it succeeds in assigning the value, it's an implicit true. The difference between equal and identical refers to the data type. For example, if you're comparing two variables that contain the same value, they're equal. But let's say they both contain the number 42, one of them in quotes, the other not. The one in quotes is a string, so it's not the same data type as the one without quotes, even though they contain the same value, so they're not identical. It's a subtle difference that you probably won't need to worry about in the early stages of working with PHP, but you do need to be aware of it. Another message to take away from this table is that the exclamation mark is used to mean not. The comparison operators in the third column are straightforward. They test whether one value is less than or equal to, greater than, and greater than or equal to another. Let's put that into practice with comparison.php, which is in the chapter 3 03_02 folder of the exercise files. The file begins by assigning Arthur Dent to name. Then there's a series of conditional statements using if, else if, and else, and a different string is displayed depending on the value of name. So if we load this into a browser, it displays I could never get the hang of Thursdays. Name is Arthur Dent. That equates to true in the first condition, so the first block of code is executed. But let's say I misspell Arthur Dent. Let's change that to a lowercase a and save and reload the page in the browser. This time we get, is that really a piece of fairy cake? That's the default, which is in the else block at the bottom. Arthur Dent doesn't match, even though it looks the same. PHP is case sensitive, so that lowercase a in name doesn't match here. Obviously, it doesn't match Marvin, so we get the default. But let's see what happens if we make that common mistake of using just one equal sign for comparison. So on line 6, I'm going to delete one of those equal signs, so name just equals Marvin. If we save that and then reload the page in the browser, we get Marvin's constant complaint about the pain in his diodes. And the reason that has happened is obviously this first condition isn't true, but this second condition, we're assigning Marvin to name, and that succeeds, so it will always be true. So you must always check that you're using two equal signs when comparing values for equality. One equal sign assigns a value, two equal signs compare. So let's put that second equal sign in there. So far, we've tested only one condition in each block, but very often you need to test more than one, and you do that with logical operators. The three most important logical operators are listed here. The first two are used for multiple conditions. When placed between two conditions, two ampersands means AND. Both conditions need to be true. Two vertical pipes mean OR. Only one of them needs to be true. The last logical operator, the exclamation mark, is used with a single variable or expression. Placing it immediately in front of a variable reverses its Boolean value. So if A is true, preceding it with an exclamation mark converts it to false, and vice versa. So let's get back to the code. We'll start off by correcting the spelling of Arthur Dent's name. That needs to be an uppercase A. And then we'll add another variable on the next line called day, and we'll set its value to Thursday. Then in the first condition, we'll check that both the name is Arthur Dent and that day is equal to Thursday, so two equal signs there. So if we save that and then refresh this in the browser, I could never get the hang of Thursdays because both Arthur Dent matches name and day equals Thursday, so that works fine. But let's change day to Wednesday, and then in the second conditional statement, after Marvin, we'll have two vertical pipes, that's the OR operator, and we'll check whether day is equal to Wednesday. And then if we save that and reload the page in the browser, there is Marvin complaining again. So what has happened here is that we've got name is Arthur Dent, the day is Wednesday. Both of these need to match. Only the first one evaluates to true, the second one is false, so this completely fails. Then in the else if, name isn't equal to Marvin, but day is equal to Wednesday, and this is the OR operator, so only one of these needs to evaluate to true. It has evaluated to true, so this second block of code has been executed. So that's the basic decision-making process in PHP. It's based on control structures using if, else if, and else. One or more conditions placed between parentheses are evaluated, and the code is executed in the block that follows the first whole condition that equates to true. These simple examples have used just one line of code in each block, but often there are many more.